Introducing the world to AI, holiday marketing observations, AI fakes, all this and much, much more on the final episode of the Strong Coffee Drip for 2024. Hi again, everyone. I'm Brian from Strong Coffee Marketing. As always, I'm joined by the Swiss Army knife of our agency, Ian. Good to see you, Ian, even though we basically spent the day yesterday together and then we had a meeting earlier today.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
And you.
Anything new in the past couple hours? No?
Lots of things, but
Yeah.
nothing that needs to be on the podcast.
You changed your shirt.
Yeah, I did change my shirt. Yeah.
Okay. I put a hoodie on. So lots of things really changing. So as mentioned, we hung out yesterday. It was a good chance to have some of our team in the office for a bit of just a Christmas lunch. Nothing crazy and over the top, because that's more of our style. But it was good to see you. Duncan was in town from Vancouver, so that was lots of fun. And yeah, it's always nice being in there and just seeing everyone and catching up. So hopefully we do more of those in the coming year. Something else I'll really quickly mention too, big day for me, Ian. Big night here for me, Ian. You know why?
Oilers game?
Yeah. So you say Oilers game, I say Bruins game. As a lifelong fan of the Boston Bruins, as you can see by my cup right here, they are in town tonight. The only time they come here all year is they only come here once a year. So I'm going to go watch the game. I don't think they're going to win because they like to be all helter-skelter right now. So my guess is they're going to lose 5-3. So Ian will make a recording of this, 5-3 Oilers tonight. Okay. And then I'm going to show you how smart I am in predicting games when we can look back on this video after tonight. So 5-3.
So we do the take now where you do all the different scores.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Publish the one
2-1, 6-1, 5-1. We'll go through the whole thing, and then I'll just pick it and be like, look at me. Look how smart I am. All right. Let's get into it. I want to start with hot topics. When we get together like we did yesterday, there's always lots to talk about. And truthfully, when we were all sitting around having pizza, I'm thinking to myself, like, we should just record this as the podcast because it's not very often that we're all in the same room and we have time to just kind of throw around ideas and talk about different things. So one of the things we discussed yesterday, and basically any meeting at this point we discuss, is AI. And I sometimes I wonder to myself when I go and speak places or talk to people about AI or social media or what have you, is the idea of how quickly the masses will adopt the idea of AI. Now, thinking back to when I really got involved in digital marketing, which was like 2008, that's when social media was making its big push. And I remember thinking the exact same thing. Like, are people going to take social media seriously, or is it going to be something the kids do? And then eventually within a couple of years, it became so important in everybody's daily life that, you know, you needed it to be able to log into things or to communicate with your friends and family, to follow the brands you like, etc. And now I start thinking about that from the idea of AI. And that brings us to the topic of AI as a product versus AI as a service. And when we talked about the masses kind of getting on board with the idea of artificial intelligence, first of all, really understanding what it is and then using it in their daily lives, I think part of the problem that I see is that people are still trying to understand what AI is. Really, AI is like a gigantic umbrella or blanket with a bunch of different things underneath it. And I think it's hard for people to grasp the concept of what this thing is. They need to see the products or services that it's impacting on a daily basis to really get into it. Sure. We look at something like ChatGPT as a standalone offering, but then we see AI being integrated into products that we already use. So in your opinion, where do you think AI belongs in kind of our overall lives in terms of products or services? And ultimately, where do you think most people will end up kind of adopting it or really getting on board with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think that we are at a point now where we're at that real transition period where the sort of lines cross of it being transitioning from one to another. It's weird talking about this in a way because it is still so new, but it's changing and evolving so quickly. But even like a year ago, I think people treated AI as a product. And it was like, I need an image, I'm going to go to Midjourney, or I need a text response, I'm going to go to ChatGPT or whatever. And so a lot of people are still using it that way. But over the course of this year, we have seen a transition to it being more of a service whereby people don't go to specific things to do what they want to do anymore. For example, we have Apple Intelligence was released where it's just, and they are slowly rolling it out. It's not all out yet, but they're introducing the specific tools straight in the phone. And you have the Google one, Copilot, similar sort of thing. They've got the
Google Gemini.
Gemini, sorry. Oh, sorry, yes, Gemini and Microsoft Copilot, sorry, where they're just building the AI into the products that you're already using. And I think the real point at which it sort of the tipping point, if you will, was around the summer when the R1 Rabbit, the hardware device, the little orange square, and the Humane AI Pin, both of those came out. Yeah, and these were devices that specifically were just AI assistants, essentially. And I think both of them kind of flopped because everyone saw them and just said, "Why can I not just do this on my phone?" That's the part where they're providing this as, here's a product, here's an AI product, and everyone who sees it is just like, my phone can do this, it just needs to be implemented. And that's the change to where it starts being a service. It's not, you're not buying a phone because it does the AI, it's just that in the future all phones will have it built in and they'll all just do it a slightly different way. And another change that we saw in the past couple of weeks, which I found very, very interesting, was Amazon introducing, I believe they call it Nova, which is their AI, and they're building it in at the ground level into Amazon Web Services, AWS. Now, AWS is a massive, it's a massive part of Amazon's business.
Gigantic.
I think it accounts for more than 60% of Amazon's income, which a lot of people don't realize. And the largest websites the largest companies that you can think of generally host their websites on AWS. And if they're building in AI at the ground level, all these sites will essentially have access to tools that that they can use just while they're in editing their website, for example. So, and we're talking on a scale of Instagram is hosted on AWS. That's the kind of scale we're talking at. We're not talking about, your small local business or whatever, although they can be too. But yeah, I think that by introducing that at the ground level, it's again cementing that AI as a service, whereby you don't need to go, if you're writing a blog post, for example, you don't necessarily need to go to ChatGPT anymore. You can just, those tools will be built in. Or, if you're needing another AI tool to help you with your SEO or with your ads development or whatever.
Your Gmail, we use Gmail, and you see the Gemini logo at the top.
Absolutely. So all these things are just going to be built into the tools you're already using. And I think we really are at that tipping point, like I say. And for me, that's interesting for OpenAI in particular, because they're one of the few, well, I mentioned Midjourney as well, and they're in a similar kind of boat where they are still the product. They don't have a physical device to sell, and perhaps they'll move into that direction. It's hard to know. But at the moment, they're still somewhere that you specifically have to go to use them. And people are still doing that. But I wonder if they'll be impacted by the fact that people start drifting away from going to specific apps to use their AI tools, and they start just expecting it built into the operating system of whichever device they're using.
Yeah. I agree. Like I think what I like about this is that it's getting baked into so much stuff that people are going to get introduced to AI, whether they like it or not. But at the same time, they might not really realize what's happening. They might just think, oh, this tool can do so much more now, or my phone can do a lot more. They don't really care about how it does it or why it does it. It can just do it. So it's like, okay, this is great. I think when you talked about the rabbit, which was kind of interesting, I'll show a picture of it here, maybe here, but it'll probably be here or here. That was an interesting one because you're right. It was basically like an handheld AI device, but it was like, well, yeah, you've got your phone. I already have one of those, and everybody already has one of those. So what differentiates it? I think part of what I see here with the idea of the rabbit too is, I legit want a robot in my house. And
Right.
you see those little robots, but the issue that I found with them is that they're basically just like a rolling around version of Google Assistant,
Sure.
or what else does it? So it's kind of like, well, if I can just use my phone or another device already to do it, do I need the thing rolling around behind me to do the same thing? So
Yeah.
that's kind of like, again, it's, you know, believe me, the second there's a legit robot available, like Rosie the robot from Jetsons, I'm all in.
Okay.
And we're getting one for the office too.
That sounds good.
So yeah, because I understand there was a spilled pop in our office yesterday. I didn't
Oh,
realize it. The
oh,
robot could have cleaned it up.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So, um, but no, and this will be really fascinating to watch. And like you said, we're really at that tipping point, and probably have been in that tipping point now for a number of months or even the whole
Yes,
year.
maybe.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and just at the speed at which things are moving, what's it going to look like this time next year? Where are more people just going to be used to the fact that things are just smarter? That's really
Yeah.
their idea of AI, is things are just smarter.
I think that's very true, and especially as the likes of Google and Microsoft and Apple do start to just roll out more features without any fanfare surrounding
Yeah.
it, then people will just be like, "Oh, it can do that now. That's cool." But it will just be that's how it's always been in a way. It's just that now it'll be that layer of AI which perhaps wasn't there before, and people don't even really need to. I think we'll get to the point where we're not even really talking about AI anymore. It will just be because it's so embedded into the things that we do and the tools that we use that we it's just
Just
assumed.
advances in technology,
Yeah,
basically, is what it'll end up being. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, you know what? I bet you this isn't the last time we talk about AI on the podcast.
No, it
I
will not be.
bet you we talk about it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another headline that was really fascinating to me that happened towards the end of the year too, but I think it brings up a bit of a talking point. Over the past few months, there's a restaurant in Austin, Texas, that's been receiving a lot of attention, but not because the food is good or not because of the service. It's because it isn't real. This restaurant, it's called Ethos Restaurant. It's got an Instagram account. You can search up Ethos Restaurant and you'll find it. And if you go and look, it's filled with pictures of amazing food. There's like a Pokemon croissant and all sorts of things. Jason Momoa is having a drink. Jeff Bezos is behind the bar as the bartender. And the entire thing is just AI generated images. You click on the link and you go to a website, and it looks like a legit restaurant website. And you eventually get to the part where you want to book a table. And at that point, you're essentially rickrolled. Like, hey, this isn't real, in case you hadn't figured out ahead of time. And I think what's been really fascinating about this is that there's so many people that at this point aren't really processing things and are just assuming still that, oh, this must be true. Look how cool this is. We were just talking about this, you and I, this morning. There's a recent study published in Natural Human Behavior that found like most social media users share content without fully reading the post, and they basically just look at the headline and the visual,
Mhm.
take that as being the whole bit of content, and they share away. And we see this in politics all the time, where people are sharing things and they're having their opinions shaped by not the full context of a story. It's the headline that might grab your attention and a single image or video. Yep, that's got to be what it is. So when we hear stuff like this, all the people commenting on the Ethos restaurant post saying, next time I'm in Austin, I got to check out this place. And
Yeah.
then further down in the comments, there's just these people saying, you idiots, it's fake. It's not real. It's not real. But no, there's still those people. Oh, this looks amazing. I can't wait. I see images on Facebook and I'll have relatives that'll be like, oh, this is such an amazing image. Where in the world is this? It's nowhere in the world. It's
Yeah.
not real. It's not real. So we hear stuff like this and we see so many people interacting with the fake restaurant or fake content online, AI generated content. Should we be concerned for mankind due to their inability to make smart and rational decisions
Absolutely.
using proper decision making? This is a big concern of mine. And I know it's funny, but at the
Yeah.
same time, we're heading on a crash course to not knowing what's real anymore. And
Yeah.
as marketers, what's gonna is it gonna become where no one can trust anything?
Yeah.
And how do you then build the trust of people online?
Yeah.
It's it's a funny thing to think about, but at the same time, it's terrifying because you look at the tools that are coming out, and Duncan talked about Sora last time,
Mhm.
where you'll be able to make realistic looking videos with whatever you want the video to look like. I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah, it is concerning. Like even before tools like Sora and things like that came out, we kind of heard this in the news quite a bit when the original batch of deepfakes started pouring out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, and that was a much more manual process and extremely time consuming, things like that. But even at that time, everyone was like, we're going to have to get to a point where we're just much more thinking much more critically about the things that we're looking at, because you have to question whether or not something is real. And yeah, I haven't looked at the data about whether or not people are doing that en masse, but the just from the stories that you hear, I think it seems like we're kind of going the other way, and we're thinking less critically about the things that
Yes.
we see than ever before.
This
Uh,
study was really interesting. It
yeah,
really broke it down, and it was like, now that I think about it, yeah, I see this all the time. People are sharing stuff, and you're just sitting there for a second going, what was your thought process when you saw this and then shared it, and then you realize they probably didn't have much of one. They saw a headline and maybe an image and just said, yep, this needs to get shared to my friends.
absolutely. Yeah,
I
it's,
remember as kids, you'd always have the one kid that would come and just tell amazing tales
yes,
about what they did on the weekend, or their dad knows Wayne Gretzky, or things like that. And you're like, okay, crazy kid. And
yeah,
now it's like, well, who knows what's real? So
yeah,
I am concerned by it. I think we're all going to have to ratchet up our BS meters about
yeah.
tenfold. But I can tell you this. And Christmas is coming, so I'll be seeing friends and relatives when I go places, and they always kind of ask me questions because they think I'm the computer guy. I'm not the computer guy. I don't know a lot about computers, but if I really want to kind of shake up conversations, especially with people older than me, like my relatives, the two things I'll bring up are this idea of what you're seeing online. There's a really good chance it's probably being doctored or it's not real.
Yeah.
And you know what else I bring up? And we talked about this. You brought this up a few episodes ago.
Right.
The idea of P doom. I
Oh,
love bringing up P doom, probability of doom, and then they just kind of sit there like, huh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So, yeah, and every time I talk about P Doom, I make it sound a little bit more terrifying than it really is, just to leave everybody with a bit of a thought as they're leaving a family get together. Like, maybe I should think about that a bit more about what Brian's saying, and then they don't. But
All right, just
glad I have
giving
that influence over people.
we're
Yeah,
giving our viewers an existential crisis now about. You should put up a small thing about what P Doom is for anyone who has
yeah, I'll
not
put it right
this podcast.
here,
Okay.
here. Yeah, okay,
Uh,
P Doom.
but
Um,
yes.
so I hope everybody turns out okay because humanity's on a bit of a crash course.
Where that conversation was going, but
So everyone,
that's it.
just you know what? Take a minute, read something, and go, is this real? I'm going to ask somebody.
Yeah,
I think that's a huge thing. Ask somebody instead of tell somebody, because
yeah,
if you tell somebody, then they tell somebody, and all of a sudden there we go. So ask
yeah.
questions, think logically. That's the
Indeed.
best way to approach this.
But it does impact us from a standpoint of like
100%.
advertising and things like that, whereby it's like, if people do become more skeptical and think more critically of the things that they see, does it start to have an impact on how we promote things, or if they're sharing things which are blatantly not real, while the ads that we're creating, which are telling the truths about products or services, if they're being ignored, does that start to skew the advertising and marketing landscape as a whole, where people are trying to do basically the BuzzFeed quiz, but it's everything online?
Yeah.
It's like you're just like, what is gonna be the most clickbait thing
Yeah.
and get the most responses? So it's terrifying either way, I guess.
You know what I think, Ian? I think this a lot at this time of year. Let's just worry about that next year. We're not
Yes,
we're not going
yeah,
to solve any of this over Christmas. So we'll park that for the start of
yeah,
January.
yeah. This is a
Then we'll
light
worry about
for
that.
the festive season.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'll still tell my P Doom stories at
Okay.
family events, just scare people, but we'll worry about it next year.
Sounds good.
So I thought we would wrap up the year with a bit of a rapid fire approach. The good news is I've got a series of questions, and we're going to kind of rapid fire answer these. The good news is Ian didn't know we were doing this, so you don't know what any of these questions are. So it's going to be fun, right?
Okay. It sounds fun.
Say it's going to be fun, Ian. Are you looking forward to this?
It's going to be fun, Ian. Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Question number 1. There's 11 questions, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but they're rapid fire, so I don't need big, long explanations because rapid fire is like...
Right, yeah. Lightning round.
Okay, maybe not one-word answers because I want to turn this into clips for social, but multi-word answers. Okay. We had pizza yesterday at the staff function. Should pineapple be allowed on pizza?
Whoa. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but from time to time I do enjoy a slice of Hawaiian pizza, and in certain contexts, if you fancy something a bit sweeter, then yeah, I think it should be allowed, but it's not my personal preference.
I agreed. I think it should be allowed. And oddly enough, I think out of the pizzas we had yesterday, I think there were 2 or 3 of them with pineapple on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other Brian went heavy on the pineapple, so that was interesting. But I'm all for it too. And if I'm not mistaken, the origins of the Hawaiian pizza started in Canada. I believe it was Montreal.
Right.
Not Hawaii.
No.
Where they're probably like, no, we don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, they don't allow pineapple on pizza.
No. Yeah, which is ironic. Support the local economy. Question number 2. If we looked at your YouTube watch history over the past year, who did you watch the most? Or perhaps if it's on an individual creator, a certain topic.
Yeah. I watch a massive amount of guitar videos. I play the guitar. And I watch a huge amount of reviews and instructional stuff and a wide variety of stuff. I also love to learn, so I watch a lot of the sort of light-hearted science channels, things like, Vsauce isn't really around anymore, but SciShow, Vsauce, is it called Be Smart? I can't remember. But yeah, things like that, which are just, 15-minute light-hearted science videos. What else? A lot about tech and AI and stuff like that. I think that summarizes probably about 80% of what I watch. Cool.
For me, sports highlights.
Right.
Because I cheer for 2 teams that don't play here. So the other thing I watched a lot of this year, as we were sort of figuring out what we wanted to do with our office space for studio, I was watching a lot of videos of other people that have created studios, and it's just so cool to see so many creative people around the world and how they set up things and why they did this and they set up this way. And it's just really neat to see. Like, I remember way back, I was completely fascinated with like Casey Neistat's studio setup. That was ridiculous. And he has it again. He moved back to New York. But now you see other people that aren't copying that, but there's maybe little bits that they took and they put their own spin on it. And then you get other videos of people that have larger spaces like we do. And what have they done with lighting or sound or backdrops? And I spent a lot of time just getting some inspiration. And that's probably what I watched the most of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. And old school wrestling. Anytime there's a good old school wrestling, like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, that kind of stuff. Right. Yeah. It's freezing cold outside. I don't know if you do that. It is. You come from a climate that would be, I don't want to say less harsh than Canada, because that's not true. Less, maybe you don't have the extremes like we do.
It's less harsh, yeah.
Well, you get cold and rain, which isn't very nice.
It's a very different, it's a different climate.
It's a different harshness.
True, yeah.
So for you, are you a minus 30 guy or a plus 30 guy?
Plus 30, no questions asked.
Interesting, okay.
All the way, yes.
Sunburns and everything, you're fine with that?
I burn much more now than I used to, but I did live in Australia for a while and absolutely loved the fact that, you were I'm trying to think how cold it got there. It certainly didn't get below
not minus 30.
9 degrees C or something like that.
Hope they survive.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fabulous. So yes, I'm very much a plus 30 kind of fan.
I think I'm with you. Only as I get older, I'm just always cold. So
Right.
As a younger kid, minus 30 was like, yeah, it's a bit cold, but we can do stuff. I'm probably plus 30 now too.
Mm.
Question number 4: Who makes the best spicy chicken sandwich?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can't comment because I haven't had them all.
Okay, out of the spicy chicken sandwiches that you've had,
Yes.
what's your favorite?
I think I think both Wendy's and A&W both do a great spicy chicken sandwich. I think they're both really, really good. Better than
Yep.
a lot, in my opinion, better than a lot of the special chicken places like KFC or Popeyes or things like that. I prefer those two, but yeah.
Okay. I'm with you on Wendy's. I find with Wendy's, there's been a bit of a deviation in terms of how spicy the sandwich is. But I appreciate that more than, remember when McDonald's had theirs and we had them in the office, where it was more like, let's see if we can melt your face with spiciness. I don't like those, where it becomes an
Without any
uncomfortable
flavor.
situation.
Yeah.
No, like when they're naming peppers I've never heard of, I'm like, nah, I don't really know if I want this,
Yes.
right? Like, I don't need. I will say though, and you and I, I'm sure, will be in the office early in the new year, down the street, place called Waffle Bird. We're going to go
Okay.
for a bit of a visit. I've heard very good things. We're coming for you, Waffle Bird. Starting next year, we're going to have some chicken sandwiches because we are chicken sandwich experts.
Connoisseurs.
Yeah, amateur spicy chicken sandwich enthusiasts.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I think
Wouldn't
that's
say we're professional,
right.
amateur. Here's a question that gets brought from time to time. What is one industry that our agency hasn't worked in yet that you would like to work in? And I can answer this on behalf of some of the partners. We've always been kind of fascinated with the airline industry, and we've never had a client in the airline industry.
I do think that would be very interesting. Yeah. I can't really think of it. I mean, if I thought about it, I'm sure I could come up with something,
Yeah.
but off the top of my head, and that's partly because the clients we do work with are so diverse already.
Yeah.
And partly just, that I can't think of an interest I have because we've had, I mean, my personal interests are music and things like that, like I said, and we've had many clients who are either live bands or who work in like the pedal industry for effects pedals for guitarists and things like that. So that's been interesting. And obviously we have a client who works in artificial intelligence, which is something that's really at the front of our minds at the moment. So
spicy chicken sandwich shop.
This is true. Yes, if Wendy's were looking for a new advertising agency, then we could help.
Okay, well, something to look forward to. Maybe, or a client in Scotland, so you can be our translator.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Because sometimes I'm like, I don't know, not as bad as Welsh, but sometimes I don't know. Yeah, we had the chance to photograph a couple of Edmonton Oilers. It was on our social the other day. Myself and Rachel, a photographer, helping us out. We got to go in and hang out with a couple of Oilers at Kids Cottage, a very worthy charity here in Edmonton, helping kids. And they were hanging out with the kids and playing with the kids. As somebody that maybe isn't a huge hockey fan, how many Edmonton Oilers would you recognize walking down the street?
I am embarrassed to say I think the number is only one. And it would obviously be Connor McDavid. I would recognize his face. I would recognize the names of several others, but I don't think I would recognize their faces. Partly because I don't watch a huge amount of hockey, and when hockey is on, they're wearing helmets and visors and things like that. So, I'm very sad to say I don't think I would recognize many Oilers at all.
I'm probably like 8.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't even know if it's that high. Maybe 8. If they were wearing their jerseys, Ian, do you think you could recognize them with their names on the back?
Well, again, it comes down to, am I recognizing them or...
No, like, would you know them by name if they had their jerseys? Like, their last names, would you know, like, oh, that's his first name, or maybe not even that?
If it was like I don't know. If it was like a meet and greet or something like that, and I knew the Oilers were going to be there, I think I'd be looking out for them. It would be more able to perhaps tell, oh, that guy looks like, I think I recognize him from seeing him at a game. But if it was just like walking down the street and he was walking the other direction, just wearing his everyday clothes, I would be like, that guy's tall or something like that. Or,
because oddly enough, they don't generally wear their jerseys when they're walking around in public, because that'd be really weird.
Indeed.
Yeah. Question number 7. We're nearing the end of the holiday marketing rush. What's one thing you've noticed when it comes to how marketing changes around the holidays, or maybe how holiday marketing has changed in the years that we've been doing it? We chatted about this earlier, Ian. I know on my end, having two daughters that are teenage years, we spend more time chasing down products that are brought on by influencers. So we're ordering things from the small companies in the States that I've never heard of before
Mhm.
because there's some big TikTok influencer that wears this hoodie or these jeans or whatever the case may be. So I think, on my perspective, the idea that social media has really opened the doors to so much more than
Mhm.
probably we were used to a number of years ago. That would be mine. And I've spent more time researching companies I've never heard of that
Sure.
aren't from around here.
Yeah.
And even, you know what, even locally though, there might be a place in Edmonton that I've never heard of, and they want something from there, and the only reason they know about it is because they saw it on TikTok or Instagram too. So
Sure.
it's not
Yeah.
just far away.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, from a personal experience, I mean, as you said, we were talking about this a little earlier, and we were kind of thinking back to our youth and how things worked when we were, you know, around 10 years old or whatever, and how it was very much you would see it on the advertisement on television, and there was a thing that everybody had to have that year. And I think that continued on for a long time, I think, where there was the must have present. But from a personal experience, what I've seen in the last couple of years, particularly with my stepson, he's 14, and Jackson is he'll watch influencers and YouTubers and things like that, but the thing that he's asking for isn't necessarily a specific brand or a specific item. He'll perhaps watch a YouTuber and see him playing with a gaming keyboard that has all the LED lights underneath the keys or something like that, and he'll just be like, "Oh, I would really like an LED keyboard this year," but he doesn't have the specific. It has to be
Brand.
this one. It has to
Yeah.
be, yeah, exactly. It has to do these things. It's just, I think he sees those kinds of things and likes those ideas. But yeah, I it has. I think it has changed a lot, like you say, with influencers having much more influence, surprisingly, on
Crazy.
what the young demographic and audiences are looking for. And yeah, it's an interesting transition.
I'm making a big influencer play right now on gray hoodies. Like,
Okay, I
people will
like.
see this and they'll be like, I need a gray hoodie for Christmas.
Mhm.
Gray hoodie. It's super warm, goes with anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 8. What's your go to app or game on your phone?
Ooh, I don't actually play games on my phone, but
You just don't like fun, or?
well, I play. I don't. I've actually fallen out of the habit of playing video games mostly altogether. I do have a PlayStation 4, but it hasn't been set up since we moved into this house
Hmm.
in 2021. So yes. Um, so the go to app it's probably something boring like Notes. I use like Apple Notes for everything, and it's just how I manage so many different things in my life. So yeah, it's probably something really boring like that.
Wow.
Yeah,
You go over and hang out with Ian on a Saturday night.
it's
He's
not.
taking
Yeah,
notes on his phone.
I don't think it's something. It's not. It's not the thing that I would open when I'm looking for excitement or entertainment.
Yeah.
But it is. It is. If you're thinking about on my phone's screen, what app
Utilities.
spends the
That's a
most
good one.
time? Yeah, what app spend the most time being open? And it's probably something like that.
You know what mine is? Mine is YouTube, but not for why you think.
Okay.
I am
Oh,
addicted to YouTube playables. The
right.
games on YouTube. I know when they came out, we talked about it on the podcast, and I was making fun of them, saying who would go on YouTube to play stupid games. I'm on there every day. I'm
Yeah.
playing solitaire. I'm playing mini golf. I'm playing this game where you have to kick the ball in soccer, and I'm not very good at it. YouTube playables, I'm all in. I like that you don't need separate apps for every game. They're
Yeah.
good time killers if you have 5 minutes when you're out and about waiting for somebody, um, and they're ad free. Now, you went and ruined my fun saying, well, they're probably going to add ads because that's just what happens. So thank you for that. But right now, YouTube playables is it's my go to. And I never in a million years thought it would be, because I'm not a video game guy either. But just super easy,
Yeah.
and just open it up and play a game. Question number 9: what's the best side dish at Christmas dinner?
Oh wow. My personal favorite, and I haven't seen it as much here, but in Scotland, um, a very common one is small chipolata sausages wrapped in bacon.
Oh,
And
so you would have that with turkey as well?
yes,
So
yeah,
it's like meat and meat and meat.
yes,
Turkey with
absolutely,
sausage wrapped in bacon.
absolutely, yeah. And it's
Interesting.
yeah. So there's a local farmer near here, a guy from he's from Carlisle back in the UK, and he does these. So I'm going to go and pay him a visit actually tonight, and hopefully buy some because I can't get them in
Wow.
the supermarkets.
Well, I hope
But
you
yeah,
enjoy those.
that or potatoes of any and all kinds.
I got off the potato wagon this year. I don't know
Oh,
why. I just kind of was like, no big. I really cranberry sauce is not really much of a side, but you need cranberry sauce. My mom and Jill now they make a really good broccoli wild rice casserole with cream of mushroom soup.
wow.
Amazing. It's the perfect complement to the turkey.
Okay.
This is them coming together right here.
A perfect compliment indeed.
I will probably have multiple plates of it when we get around to holidays next week.
Yeah.
Question number 10. We met with some clients yesterday before our little staff get together. They're looking to start a podcast next year. What's one tip you can provide them? Now, I'm going to guide you in your tip
Okay.
because you're really good at talking about something. And obviously, with it being quick hitters, you don't need to dive terribly deep into it. But I think explaining the idea of lighting, because what was funny about that was you were explaining some basic lighting to these folks, and then they left, and we had a videographer, come by to look at our studio quickly. And when he went upstairs to see the setup that we're creating for the podcast,
Yeah.
he knew right away. He was like, you got the lights here, and this is so far away from the wall. He knew exactly what we were
Yeah.
doing. And I was like, well, it wasn't me. It was that guy over there. He knows what he's talking about. So, a Cole's Notes version of when you're lighting, obviously, I'm not lighting it the right way here because I'm in my basement, but if you're lighting something and you see the YouTubers with the colored background, the colored light, how do they do that? And there's kind of an interesting tip in terms of depth, is really what it's all about.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. Essentially, if you want to do interesting lighting like the ones you described, whereby they might have a coloured light on the back wall, but it isn't hitting the subject, and then the subject is really well lit as well, what you really need to try and do in that circumstance is light in two different layers. So your background layer, you're thinking about completely separately from your subject. I think a lot of people want to try and get one light to do everything. Which is fine. But if you can get a light very, very close to the subject and try and make it as big as possible, you've probably seen lights with things like soft boxes on them or
Big, huge looking
big white
things.
umbrellas, things like that. That's to soften the light source so that it's a very flattering light on the subject. And the closer you can get that to the subject, the less likely it is to impact or contaminate the other lighting on the background. So try and get your lights up close to whatever they're lighting, but put as much distance maybe between your subject and your background as you can, and that will really help things.
Yeah, and that was the thing that really surprised me when we were setting things up, and we'll eventually get in there to record some episodes. I'm looking forward to it. How far away the subject, being us, is from the back wall that's lit. It's we're talking in, I think up there it's 10 feet, 10
10 or
11
12 feet,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a ways back, and that's how you separate those two layers of light, as opposed to us being right up against the wall where you
Yeah.
can't make any changes to it anyways. So yeah, no, I just thought that was a really good tip. A tip on my end is just look for tools that help make things easier. We talk about AI all the time. What can you do to get captions and clips made up easily? There's so many amazing tools out there. Descript.com comes to mind. That's a big one for me because it can be very time consuming. So you figure out ways to make it less time consuming.
Yeah.
So, and always improve. That's what we're working on for next year already. The bonus question. I asked you this last week. Have you finished your Christmas shopping now?
No.
Okay. So,
but there's still at least 6 days. So
yeah, so we're going into the final weekend here, and then you have till Tuesday because you can't shop on Wednesday because that's Christmas.
True.
So, okay.
We'll be fine. It'll be good.
All right. Well, we'll check back after the holidays. So that puts a bow on season 1 of the Strong Coffee Drip. It's been a lot of fun knocking out the first 25 episodes with Ian, with Duncan, with Trevor for one episode.
Yeah.
But you and I have been co-pilot on all 25, correct?
I think
no, the one that Trevor was on, you weren't there.
Was on, I wasn't there, yeah, but I think I've been on all the others.
Yeah. Okay, well, you know what? 24 is a pretty good number. And so 25 in the first year. Here's to 25 more in 2025. Merry Christmas, Ian, to you and your family. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to all of you out there. And we will see you next year. Now let's get back to work. Happy holidays, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Thanks.